Hello and welcome to episode 34 of the Horsemen podcast. We are doing a top 10 album covers. I have no idea what the hell happened to my voice just now, but I am talking...
Easy there, Dracula. Easy there, Dracula.
You went Dracula or full French?
Jean qui oui oui. Oh god, what a way to start with some good old-fashioned stupidity on my part. Anyways, yes, this is episode 34 of the Horsemen podcast, top 10 album covers. And as you can tell, the whole gang minus Raphael Fireblade is here above me, who continues to torture me every single day of my life. Artur Castanha. Okay, Finn.
Easy there, Finn Balor.
Rainmaker.
Easy there, Finn Balor.
No, Rainmaker.
Okay.
Rainmaker
Okay.
Okada.
Okay, I'll give you a pass for Okada.
And then next to him, above on the top right, is Ricky Kalaman.
Yellow.
And then, right next to me is the always lovely Hannah Klein.
Bon. Madame est...
Bon qui.
Je suis baguette.
Or better yet, ich bin ein Berliner. Which has a whole different meaning here.
Yes. They're delicious, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
If you know what that is, look it up.
Oh, where have we gone with this, I swear.
Down the insanity hole, and we don't mind.
I mean, this is what happens when you're quarantined for such a long time when you go crazy.
Yeah. Oh, no, we lost Hannah.
Oh, she's back.
Oh,
What a perfect way to start.
by the way, Hannah. I'm looking at you right now. A little kiss. Mwah. Or better yet, if I want to go even more crazy.
Going French.
You would like it and you know it.
No!
How dare you? Alright, anyways, back to business. Now that we got some,
Easy, Greta.
Oh, yeah, that meme. So, yeah, we are doing top 10 album covers. So, this episode, I'll say, in post-production, was a bit challenging to edit because I had to post the picture of the cover on everybody's square for people to see what we're talking about, because I feel we're only doing this for this episode and the featured band logos episode, because it'd be more appropriate to do it. Even though some of us will have the actual albums with the covers here, there will be some that, like, Ricky or I don't have that we definitely put the picture up for. But regardless, top 10 album covers. So I figured a good place to begin would be, like, what do we look for in album covers? Do we look for crazy paintings or primitive imagery or anything in between? Or in the case of early Carcass covers, an autopsy collage. Or what have you.
Literally.
Yep. Spoiler alert, none of those covers are on my list as far as Carcass. I actually do have a Carcass cover, but it ain't gonna be Reek or Symphonies. Or even Necroticism.
Neither.
But, so I figured that's a good place to begin to answer that question of what do we look for in a cool album cover. I guess for me, it doesn't matter just as long as it looks cool and it fits the music. I think short, sweet, to the point answer. Like, you got album covers out there that are very simplistic, like, say, Candlemass's Epicus, Doomicus, Metallicus with the skull.
Dark Throne, Dark Throne.
Yeah, but when you look at it while you listen to the music, it just mirrors it so perfectly. Then you get, like, the more over-the-top, crazy paintings, like an album that Hannah has behind her that might be on my list, where it's so over-the-top with the painting and such that really complements the music. So that's kind of more or less my answer. But, Hannah, what do you look for in album covers?
Album covers can tell you a lot about the music. I mean, whenever I'm on Bandcamp or browsing for new music, the album cover is the first thing you see before you listen to the music. And since I'm such a huge sucker for atmospheric black metal, I mean, a nice landscape is always nice, or some very dark imagery depicting crimes or whatever, the stuff you look for when you listen to ASBM or DSBM. But I mean, I like when they incorporate paintings, and in general when the album cover complements the music. So whenever I'm on the hunt for death metal, brutal thing is always a good thing. For black metal, I mean, those typical black and white photographies is always a good indication. Paintings in general, etchings, landscapes, some portraits or whatever. I mean, as long as it's a good quality work. I'm not a big fan of those power metal album covers. I think most of them are too cheesy for my taste. I avoid, Manowar. I mean, big, beefy, sweaty man on the cover. I tend to
Not these guys.
Kind of,
Not these guys.
although Vince McMahon must love those album covers. Well, as long as it's visually appealing for me, I usually check out the music, and I'm even happier when both create a perfect entity, and I will talk about these things later on. So, I mean, important indication. Album covers are very important to catch your attention while checking out albums.
Ricky, what about you?
I think the same thing is to Levi. It doesn't really matter the album cover as long as it complements the album as a whole. But sometimes the album cover can make or break a band. It can either make it very iconic, the album cover, make it one of the most recognizable album covers ever, or not so much, which is forgotten. But yeah, sometimes album covers matter a lot. So that's why I like the artistry that some of the artists take their time out of their day and create these amazing artworks that are so recognizable that you, even if you're not even a fan of a certain subgenre or a certain band, it's easy to recognize. You're like, oh, I know that album from a certain band, or I know this band, or it's always a plus.
And especially since it creates all of those mascots that many bands have become associated with. I mean, example, you cannot think of Motorhead, for instance, without thinking Snaggletooth.
Yeah.
You can't think of Iron Maiden without Eddie. You can't think about Megadeth without Vic Rattlehead.
Spoiler.
And to the point that there's some people who actually tattoo their bodies with their favorite album artworks, which I have big respect for people who love those album artworks and put them in their bodies. Maybe we'll do that one of these days. Maybe.
Yeah.
And we could say the same thing for band logos too, as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, Artur.
Yeah.
I have nothing. I have nothing to add. I mean, everything has been said already. I mean, those covers really captivates your mind, makes you want to either listen to the album, or even, for instance, some of the Venom covers, for instance, like black metal, Welcome to Hell, In League with Satan, and In League with Satan, no, At War with Satan. I mean, even if you don't think that you want to listen to that, you have to, because you're captivated by it. You don't know what Baphomet is, but you see the goat's head, and you feel mesmerized by it. You want to listen. Hence the reason why Venom stayed in the Filthy 15 for years, but still, everybody listened to that album. Even for an example that unfortunately is not a part of my list, like Abigail, for instance, from King Diamond. I would definitely see that, for instance, on a movie poster as well. Album covers that can do as big of a job as a movie poster, they are doing something very, very accurate.
And now it's time for honorable mentions. I shall begin. I have quite a bunch. Some I'm going to show off on my phone, some I got the albums of. First one, probably the newest album cover that I have, an album from 2017, and that's Bell Witch Mirror Reaper.
Oh, no! No!
Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
No.
Wait a minute. Did I already commit a murder? Oh, okay, I was close. It's close. I was close. But yeah, the Mirror Reaper album cover, it just looks so haunting, and it fits the album to a T, and it's like anytime I listen to that album/song and you look at the cover, it's either scary or intriguing, or some cases both. And it just complements the album perfectly. Next up, probably in my opinion, the most evil album cover of all time, in any genre, Immolation, Close to a World Below, with the burning Jesus on the cross in hell, complements this album perfectly, and it's one of the most underrated death metal albums I feel ever created. It's so much like Morbid Angel, but on steroids. And I think Immolation as a band needs to be discovered by more people who are into metal, because they are, at first, like, first half of their career was more atheist, anti-religion lyrics, and then they get into more political stuff in the newer albums, but still the music is quite brooding. It's almost like a witch's cauldron of death metal, as opposed to the style of Cannibal Corpse, Death, or Suffocation, where it's a little more technical and fast. These guys go for a more groove and a little bit more of an evil atmosphere sound-wise. And this album cover fit that album in 2000 perfectly, and it's one of them, and like I said, the most evil album cover I have ever seen.
And you might say one of the most controversial ones as well.
No doubt. Yeah, also a very controversial cover as well. Even though it didn't get much of that, because then again, Immolation's a very much underground band.
You want to talk about controversial album covers? What about Vital Remains, where it has Jesus being pounded with a hammer?
I mean, eventually we can do an episode on controversial album covers in the future.
That would be a good one. Now, the rest of my honorable mentions, I do have the actual covers here and the albums. Next up, Dark Throne, Ablaze in the Northern Sky.
Oh, damn it!
As we were talking about earlier, it's his number 5.
Number 5. Number 5.
I'm killing number 5s already, I guess.
And I'm putting the trilogy.
But yeah, it's like I was talking about, we were talking about with like a primitive art, imagery. This is as primitive as it gets, just a picture of a dude in the woods taken with a buddy's camera and photocopied like 8 times onto a cover. It's very simplistic, but man, does it kind of intrigue you, especially with the corpse paint.
So, basically, almost every black metal band ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next up, this album in general gets a ton of shit for sounding like Metallica. I say, good because this album's kick-ass and the album cover fits it to a T. Trivium the Crusade. Very, very good album, and a really cool cover of the dude with the sword about ready to go into battle. And when you hear the music compared to it, it's exquisite. From beginning to end, from Ignition through to the instrumental title track, which, by the way, when we did instrumentals, I completely forgot to mention The Crusade by Trivium, because that is such a good one, but we're too late on that anyways. But yeah, the cover for The Crusade with the dude getting ready to fight with the sword, that looks like the T of the Trivium logo, which is a nice added touch. There you go. Oh, next up, I put this one on here for two simple words. Alien Vagina. Cynic Focus. It's a weird cover, but it's a cool cover, and yes, it is literally an alien vagina. Then again, I'm a connoisseur of vaginas, so there you go.
Oh boy. Don't bury her. If you bury yourself even deeper, I have to call Triple H.
Katie Vig.
Oh.
No.
Oh god. Anyways, now that I've started that can of worms, next up, also kind of a controversial cover, but it's a cool painting. Celtic Frost to Megatherion. I mean, the H.R. Geiger painting.
Celtic Frost.
Yeah, the H.R. Geiger painting.
Not Geiger. Giger. H.R. Giger, please.
Giger. H.R. Giger.
Sorry, but it's how his name is pronounced.
Fair. H.R. Giger, this painting, I remembered, I think Tom asked for a painting to use on this cover, and then again, Tom Moyer and H.R. Giger had a very close friendship until Giger passed away 6 years ago. And I think he also did the first two Triptychon covers as well, so you can definitely tell how far the
Let's not
really went.
Let's not forget H.R. Giger's best contribution, the Xenomorph.
And I forgot to mention he also did the Heartwork album cover for Carcass, but that's not on my list. Next up, it's like evil, but also a bit romantic, which fit the album to a T. Opeth Still Life.
Oh, Still Life.
Yeah, the cover of Melinda walking away from the cemetery in the dark. It's just a wonderful image that complements the album perfectly as well. I have two more. Next up, I bet Artur's going to be kicking himself in the ass for this one, or he'll be angry. It is Painkiller.
Number
3. Ha! But yeah, I mean, the Painkiller character.
Priest is on my list. Priest is on my list, but it's not Painkiller.
I think I might know which one it is, but I'm not going to say it yet. But yeah, the Painkiller cover, it's so cool with the character, the Painkiller, on his demon bike, going between heaven and hell, what looks like, with the classic Trident logo that first debuted on Sad Wings of Destiny. Little story behind that, but Painkiller. And then my final honorable mention, when I talk about album covers, it's hard to do a list and not mention Cannibal Corpse. Because they have notoriously amazing covers. They have a bunch of classic album covers, but the one that strikes me the most would have to be the first one, Eaten Back to Life. With the zombie ripping himself apart at the cemetery. And it's what's awesome. Vince Locke, who has done all the Cannibal covers. I love the way he does the covers by incorporating some song titles into the cover, like, The Undead Will Feast Skull Full of Maggots.
Skull Full of Maggots.
Born in a Casket, Edible Autopsy, Rotting Head, Bloody Chunks, Buried in the Backyard. He does a good job of incorporating all the song titles onto this cover. And
I do have a Cannibal Corpse. I do have a Cannibal Corpse on my honorable mentions, but it's not that one. It's I'll say Butchered at Birth.
Ah. Well, those are all my honorable mentions. Well, Artur, let's get to yours next.
Okay, I already said one of mine, Butchered at Birth, by Cannibal Corpse, especially with all the hanging babies over there, is still very much gruesome.
And it's one of the most gross
Twilight
album covers of all time. But then again, most gore grind album covers. Then again, most gore grind album covers are even more gross.
What was the next after Butchered at Birth? Was it the Wretched Spawn where they have the woman crucified as well?
No, it was Tomb of the Mutilated.
Oh yeah,
where the lady's like this and she's getting her pussy licked by a zombie.
Yeah. So, I have Butchered at Birth. I have Twilight of the Thunder God as well. I mean, that cover, especially with Thor on the rock fighting Jormungandr, the sea serpent, that's a hell of a cover. And once you start to listen to that song, to the songs on Twilight of the Thunder God, you know what it is. I have an Asphyx album on it, but unfortunately it's not the last one on Earth. It's actually Deathhammer. I like very much that cover of the Deathhammer, especially with the Necronomicon as well, if you want to call it such.
Yeah.
I have the Holy Diver. I have Dio's Holy Diver, despite being a bit of a basic cover as well, but comparing to others that I'll put it here, but still, it's like opening up a book. You always start with the cover. I don't know if many of you are going to mention this, but I have the first Black Sabbath album as well.
It's my honorable mention. It's one of my honorable mentions.
Hannah's number 2. Number 8. Yep. I mean, it's Black Sabbath. What would you know about Black Sabbath except for that weird lady in the woods? And my last 2. This is more out of my personal preference. I have a Bathory album, and I have Blood on Ice. I mean, it was the album that first attracted me to Bathory, and that whole blue cover, especially with the sword in the middle. To me, it's awesome. And this might be a bit of left field, but I like in rock. I like Deep Purple's in rock. Basically, Deep Purple's version of Mount Rushmore with Richie Blackmore, with Richie, Ian Gillan, Ian Pace, Roger Glover, and all the guys.
Lord.
Exactly. Never forget John
Rest
Lord.
in peace, John Lord.
Exactly. And I'll put just another one. I'll make it an even 8. Rainbow's Rising. I mean, the hand grabbing the rainbow. I mean, that's a hell of a picture in it by itself. So, done and done.
Honorable mention. I told you I was going to be forgetting a bunch of obvious ones. Damn it. How could I forget the classic Rainbow Rising?
Damn it.
Ricky.
First, I want to say 2 things. The first one is I could have gone the Hannah route. I could have gone with all of them for one subgenre of metal. I didn't. I went everywhere over the list. I could have gone with Death Doom, mostly the softer, mellow Death Doom, because I think those Death Doom album covers are some of the most depressive yet beautiful album artworks. There's a Death Doom album on my list, and later in the list. But I have 9 honorable mentions. The first one is 3 albums by a Death Doom band called Malfisham Trees. They've been around for 25 years, playing melodic Death Doom, which you guys should totally check out. And the 3 albums that I chose is The Reason, probably their best album to date. Very depressive. You see a child or a lady kind of in a fetal position crying or being depressed or something. The next one is called Giving Yourself Away, which kind of continues the story of this album cover, but this one's a bit darker because it's a red cover. You see some stairs and you see some feet hanging, which you think this person hanged himself. And last but not least, I have the latest from Vision Trees, The Death of Gaia, a beautiful portrait of the goddess Gaia. If you don't know, is the grandmother of Zeus, Hades, and Poseidon, and has the coins in her eye.
I have blood on ice right here.
There we go.
There you go. It has the coins in her eyes, kind of representing. There was an old myth that in order for them to pass to the afterlife, they need to send with money and all that. I don't know that.
The obelisk had to be put on the eye in order to pass the Styx.
Yeah, to pass through the river Styx, they had to do something around there. Yeah, something around there. Next up, Artur mentioned it, Rainbow Rising. One of the most iconic album artwork, especially with that hand grabbing the rainbow. I had to put it on the honorable mentions. Next up, the Beatles, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Probably one of my favorite Beatles artworks. I could have gone with Abbey Road because Abbey Road gets the more praise, but this one's probably my favorite because you got Bob Dylan, you got Marlon Brando, Edgar Allan Poe, you got a whole bunch of artists that the Beatles admired during that time. So yeah, and guess my vote. Next up, X Japan's Art of Life. One of the most beautiful album artworks with half of the face of Yoshiki's face and half of it's in X-ray. And it was difficult for them to do that because Yoshiki wanted to have an X-ray an X-ray scan of his skull, but the hospitals wouldn't let them because there was no purpose of doing an X-ray without a cost. So they had to do some experimentation. Again, Archer mentioned it, Black Sabbath by Black Sabbath. One of the most iconic. I mean, it would be a blasphemy if the Black Sabbath wasn't mentioned on this list, because that iconic picture of the woman next to the, I don't know if it's the farm or I don't know what it is around there. I mean, one of the most recognizable. Yeah, well, thank you. One of the most recognizable artworks out there. Next to maybe Paranoid, but Paranoid's artwork, questionable. I got Autopsy, Severe Survival, the alternative album cover. Yes. The alternative one, not the original album artwork. I like the alternative version because it has the aliens on the perspective of the victim being just creepy album artwork. I like it. I'm almost done. Next up, Dissection, Storm of the Light's Blame.
Oh, damn it! I forgot that one.
I forgot that one too.
Yeah. Purple album cover with the Grim Reaper holding his side with an hourglass riding a horse. It's just one of those beautiful album artworks that just baffles me. That just people should listen to the album more and more recognition. I got two more. AC/DC's Back in Black. Sure, it might be one of the most plain album artworks, but it's a tribute to Bon Scott.
So is the Black Album.
Yeah, but it's a tribute to Bon Scott, and it's my favorite album of all time. I had to put it on the list. Last but not least, one of our mutual favorites, The Mantle by Agalloch.
I forgot again.
After years of finding it on CD, I was able to get it because the album art was one of the most, you might want to say, simple artworks, but it's something more that I can't describe because it's The Mantle. I mean, we have said a lot about The Mantle, and we'll probably say more very, very soon. And that's it for my honorable mentions.
Spoiler.
And real quick, just as a side note on the Severed Survival cover with the alternate cover of the zombies doing the surgery, I have the theory on what happened on the opposite side of that cover. I present to you Impaled's Mondo Medical, where you get this gross cover. I think that's what happened. That was a fan theory somebody had brought up. Like, what would have been the patient's perspective been? Well, there you go. Thank you, Impaled. All right.
I mean, yeah.
Bless you.
It sounds like a motorboat starting.
Sorry.
Well,
Allergies.
I didn't count mine because I have too many. But I also have Agalog's The Mental as an honorable mention. I mean, it feels like listening to The Mental feels like walking through the woods on a snowy day in a snowstorm or whatever. And I mean, this stag on the cover surrounded by this kind of abstract snowy landscape. It's basic. It sums up how listening to this album feels like. Then I've got the Dark Throne trilogy. I mean, they were the pioneers doing these kind of album covers, photographing somebody with corpse paint in the dark woods and then photocopying it back and forth. It's simplistic yet awesome. Then I've also got an H.R. Giger cover on here, but I've got Triptychon's Milana Casmata. I think it looks better than the Celtic Frost one, but I mean, H.R. Giger's paintings are awesome. Just look up the Alien in the Alien movies. Then I've got Electric Wizard's Dope Throne. I mean, again, it's the whole package. This kind of smoky imagery of the devil smoking up. It's just how this album feels like, and it's simplistic yet awesome. Then I've got Heretoire's debut album, Heretoire. It's again very simplistic. It's a black and white album cover of this little guy throwing himself off a cliff, committing suicide. Perfectly fitting to the DSBM music on this album. The same goes for Shining's V. Helmstad. I mean, Nicholas Qualforth with a gun in his mouth. Isn't this, for me, perfectly sums up DSBM. Next one, I've got Sepultura's Roots.
Ooh, Roots.
I mean, it's perfect with this depiction of this native Amazonian tribe kind of guy. Again, perfectly sums up what they did on this album with the music, incorporating a more tribal sound on this one. It's my favorite Sepultura album. It's my favorite Sepultura album cover. I love it. Then next I've got the original cover of God Hates Us All by Slayer, a bloody Bible. Very easy to piss off people. And very effective, looks awesome, way better than the cover they had to put on the CD after the September 11th attacks. Then I've got Emperor and the Nightside Eclipse. It's an awesome...
Honorable mention! Honorable mention!
Number 2!
I did it! Woohoo!
No, you did. It's number 2.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Let me see.
And complex album artwork. I mean, you discover new things every day, and it's the same with the music. You always discover new aspects of this phenomenal album. I have it over my bed. That shows how much I love it. Then I've got 3 Pink Floyd album covers: Animals, Atom Heart Mother, and The Dark Side of the Moon.
Dark Side. Not Dark Side.
You spoiled my number 4.
Yes. It's no secret I love Pink Floyd, and I love the imagery they create with the music, but also the imagery they have on their album covers. These 3 are probably my favorite ones. I mean, Animals with the flying pig over the factories, it's iconic. Then Atom Heart Mother with the cow. I simply love that one. And The Dark Side of the Moon with the prism and the black and the kind of rainbow prism. It's iconic. You can buy it on shirts everywhere. You can buy it on posters everywhere. It's basically everywhere. And now it's time to commit mass murder with my next honorable mention because I forgot about them, and then I simply put them on the honorable mention list. Time for Iron Maiden.
Which ones?
Again, I have three. My favorite three ones because I simply couldn't choose.
No.
Killers. The Number of the Beast. Power Slave.
No! You just spoiled my number 2. You made this Number of the Beast. This Number of the Beast.
You just spoiled one of my number 1s.
I'm so happy now, and I did it.
Then again, it's Germany. They're experts in committing murder.
Oh.
Why?
Why
would I allow this to exist? What have we done?
At the minimum,
what have we done?
At the minimum, Hannah only spoiled one of my number 1s. The other 2, she did not get it right.
The thing is, I actually wanted to put them on my list, but I simply forgot them. And then again, I mean, as much as I love Eddie and as much as I love Maiden, there are simply other artists and album covers that I like more. I won't talk about them. I think you will talk about them more than I do. So I'm done with my honorable mention list, and I'm so happy right now.
Well, thank God I haven't spoiled my number 1. Maybe yet. I don't know.
It's mine. One of them is my number 1. Oh my. Not again.
No, I'm not.
Levi just lost it.
I lost it as well.
Oh, why?
Shall I start with my number 10?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, for my actual top 10 list, I tend to I mostly choose on several criteria that I will talk about. For my number 10, I talked about the criteria I selected. My 2 album covers was kind of a shock criteria, and I mean, both albums represent a certain movement within metal, and I'm talking about black metal. 2 of the most shocking things that happened in the Norwegian scene: Burzum Aske and Mayhem, Dawn of the Black Hearts.
Oh, she went there.
She went, yeah. I thought of putting Black Hearts, but I was like, I'd rather save that for the controversial album covers.
And I thought she was going to go. And I thought that she was also going on the mysterious way, because they wanted to burn down that church.
Yes, but the thing is, I selected Aske because they actually burned the church. It's a picture of the burnt down Pfandhofen stuff church in Bergen that Varg supposedly burned down and then put it on an EP of his. I mean, how much more black metal can this get? And then again, the picture Euronymous took of Dead after he shot himself, sliced open his wrist, and was found by Euronymous, and they put it on the Dawn of the Black Hearts bootleg. I mean, it's only a bootleg, but talking about shocking album imagery, having your own former band member dead on your album cover, how much more black metal and also a bit of death metal, I suppose, can it get? And both album covers perfectly represent the shit that was going on in the Norwegian black metal scene. Yeah, and you can't certainly cannot unsee Dawn of the Black Hearts once you've seen that album cover.
That's
true. I think it's macabre, but then again, well, a lot of things were macabre that were going on in black metal.
Kind of like the Murdoch album cover and the Cradle of Filth Jesus album cover.
Yeah, a lot of shocking album cover art in the black metal scene, but I think those two are the most shocking. Are you slowly recovering from the Iron Maiden bomb?
I already recovered because you only drained me a third.
Kind of, for me.
Levi's still dead.
Yeah, he's still dead.
I can go with my number 10 because I have the first of my several ties here right now. And thankfully, I have them right here. The Keeper albums. The Keeper of the Seven Keys, 1 and 2. I mean...
Honorable mentions?
Artwork,
honorable mentions?
I mean, the artwork showing here the Keeper of the Keys giving the key to a certain creature who might be the devil. I mean, one of the reasons why I love power metal albums so much, not just because of the music, but because of these covers. And unlike Manowar, as Hannah said, which are all the machismo stuff and all Halloween and Blind Guardian as well, it's not cheesy, it's fucking art, so to say. The Keeper 1 and Keeper 2, which is now more a bit of a clairvoyant sort of a creature that we have right here, holding all the 7 keys that we have here represented. And that's why both of them, number 10, the 2 Keeper albums.
Well, now that I've somewhat recovered from the murder, my number 10 was spoiled by Hannah. It's in the Nightside Eclipse. Just the image of the mountains and the castle with all the warriors coming out from the side to go raid the castle. So Lord of the Rings-esque, so there you go. Ricky, you're number 10.
Which is also my number 2.
Well, my number 10 is a bit of an odd one, but if you guys know me, you know I had to put this band on the list. Him Greatest Love Songs, Volume 666. Probably, like, maybe a bit out there, but I just love the cover of Ville Valo just almost staring you at your soul, which, if you think about it, if you look at it real closely, it's a creepy album cover, because you have Ville Valo staring at you. But originally, the plan was for Ville Valo to be turned, as the picture would go down, turn to a skeleton, and it would be rotten. But because of funding, they couldn't do that album cover, so they went with a photographer by the name of Berti Teravosi, some Finnish name. Sorry, I don't speak Finnish. And they took this album cover, which is yet exotic and gothic and romantic. That's the point of the album: exotic, romantic, and gothic. Because this speaks gothic metal. I mean, to the point that one of the most iconic gothic metal albums out there. Which, if I ever do gothic metal albums, this will be high on the list.
All right. I guess that was everybody's number 10. Now we move on to number 9. Ricky, let's start with you.
9?
9.
9?
9. Ricky.
My number 9 is one of the most, well, not one of the most iconic classic rock albums, in my opinion. One of the best debut albums out there that ever came out in the 80s, late 80s. Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction. This is the alternative cover with the cross, the Celtic cross, and the skulls. Which originally, the thing I like about the CD version is that it has the original album cover, which I'm thankful that they didn't win with this album cover, because this is a bit more iconic album cover. I mean, you have Axl, Steven Adler, Slash, Izzy Stradlin, and Axl Rose being skulls with the cross and all that. I mean, plus, like I said, one of the best debut albums that came out in the late 80s. One of the most, like I said, iconic album cover. You've seen people tattoo themselves with album covers. One of the best.
My number 9 is probably going to be one that some people might have higher, if at all. Probably one of the most iconic covers in thrash metal history. Slayer, Rain and Blood.
You just spoiled my number 7.
I mean, one of the most...
Don't have Slayer on my list, but my number 9 are also 2 iconic thrash metal covers.
I mean, just this image of a bunch of, like, bodies and hell, it looks like, all washed out in blood. It's just so evil and creepy and scary looking, and it just fits the music to a T. Once again, I like using that phrase a lot because it's just wonderful. Hannah, your number 9!
Well, for my number 10, I was talking about shocking Norwegian black metal album covers. Now it's time to talk about shocking German metal album covers. I actually found 2. The first one shouldn't be a surprise. Rammstein Mutter.
Honorable mention. I forgot about Mutter.
I mean, it's a photo of a dead fetus, and perfectly fits the song lyrics of the actual song Mutter. It's so dark, it's so disturbing. People talk. I mean, ever since it came out, people have been talking about censoring this album cover here in Germany because they think it's highly inappropriate.
No.
But still, they think it's appropriate that on the Sinsucht album, all the members they have barbed wire around their faces.
Yeah, well, I think it's a very stunning yet disturbing album cover, and the album artwork depicts the band members also in these kind of tanks floating there like they're dead. It's so macabre and so disturbing, but it's so fitting, and that's why I selected this one. And the next one is another German band. Maybe a bit of a surprise, but Scorpions, Virgin Killer. The original.
The original one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that scared Artur away.
Well, I actually got both ones here. This is the original. I got this from my uncle with the young girl naked on here with the shattered glass at a very specific part of the picture. And then this is the one that they put on later with the band members. Of course, it's highly controversial what they did.
I don't know what
album cover.
I don't know what they were thinking. Putting
Honest?
I think she was 13?
I mean, she looks like she's 10 or so.
Yeah, I'm like
just kidding. But still.
Well, one thing for sure, demonetized.
Oh, yeah.
Oh well.
Well, it's certainly not my favorite Scorpions album, but the cover. I mean, you remember that one, and
I don't know if
yeah.
I would have put a Scorpions cover. I would have went with Animal Magnetism, just because of the image of what looks like the dude getting ready to pull his dick out and make the chick give him a blowjob or something. But for more iconic, I would have went with Blackout with the forks in the eyes.
Yeah, I would go with Blackout too.
Yeah.
selected because
Artur.
of controversy.
My number 9. It's another draw. I will have so many draws around here. Levi just mentioned one of the more iconic thrash metal album covers of all time. I'm gonna race Ride the Lightning by Metallica. I mean, the electric chair. The second one, you're sweating, but that's my second one. The electric chair in the middle of a blue sky with a lightning all over. How can you get more Ride the Lightning than that? Especially when everybody says that going on the electric chair it's basically saying Ride the Lightning. And the second one, should I say anything less? Should I say anything more?
Is it this?
Exactly. It's Master of Puppets. It's Master. Come on. Come on. I already spoiled one of my number ones, and I'm sure one of you will spoil another one. Master of Puppets. Need I say? The hands coming over a graveyard. I know that in some album covers that you could see part of the strings, like the strings in a kind of a veil, transparent form. The strings coming out of the master, and wow, that is definitely it is as iconic an image as it is Ride the Lightning, of course, and another one that could have been here, which is also iconic as well, and Justice for All, Blind Lady Justice. But
or
my number 9s, not that much Kill 'Em All. I prefer these three, personally. Yeah. But Master of Puppets and Ride the Lightning, my number 9. 9.
Well, Artur, let's start with your number 8.
In a way, I don't know which one of you said Epicus, Numicus, Metallicus as for Candlemass, but I once again have 2 Candlemass albums. And I know I have the second one, but around here somewhere, but I'll show number 1. Nightfall. I mean, the painting by Thomas Cook showing here this seraphim angel riding on a lonely boat. Where it goes, or she goes, no one knows. And that's number 4. And as for doom metal albums, this is an epic cover. I think that the guy who created is an American painter by the name of James Cook, from what I heard. He made this one. Thomas Cole. Thank you, Hannah. And the other one for my number 8, Ancient Dreams as well. I mean, the cover of Ancient Dreams, which is a total, almost a 180 from the darkness of Nightfall to a more clear, open-ended environment for what represents Ancient Dreams. One would not assume that a a doom metal album would have that much light, but it does have, and Ancient Dreams is the proof of it. And both of them, number 8, Nightfall and Ancient Dreams by Candlemass.
Well, my number 8 was spoiled earlier. It's Black Sabbath's Black Sabbath. I mean, again, iconic, especially when you listen to the title track.
Follow me.
That is number 2. We are going to get revenge on her. We're going to get revenge on her.
One of these days. One of these days.
One of these nights. One of these crazy nights.
You all got revenge on me, so I'm clear for the moment.
Ricky.
My number 8, Bip. And this might be the album that you can say is payback for Hannah. I don't know if she has it on her list. Maybe. I have The Satanist by Behemoth.
What? No. She dodged the bullet.
But I don't have it on my list.
Neither.
Well, okay. I was like, maybe she might have it.
I think Levi has it.
No, I don't.
Okay. Well, I mean,
I thought about it, but no.
That album artwork makes me think of a lamp, and when you rub the lamp, the genie comes out. That's what I think of it. Like, looks like a genie with different stuff. You mean you have the face? I think it's Nurgle's face. I know the album always was use Nurgle's blood, which is kind of that Kiss did in with some comics. But that album artwork is just has so many things in there. Has goat's head, has a face, has a lot of weird stuff that just makes me like look at it like, what the hell is this? Singing the line from Fenris when he saw, I think it was Venom Black Metal when he first saw it. But it's so iconic. I mean, it's a Satanist. We love that album to death. I mean, what more can we say about the Satanist?
All right, Henna.
My number 8 is.
Oh,
yes. Sky Valley.
A photograph, but it's so fitting. I mean, this sign that says "Welcome to Sky Valley," and then you have this kind of dark highway. You don't really know if the sun is setting or if the sun is rising, and it's the album itself. It's the perfect album for a road trip. To have it on full volume while driving, and of course some people like to to intoxicate a bit here and there when listening to this thing. And
I'll say that you can listen to Caius while driving, but personally I would rather listen to Wheels of Steel by Saxon while riding.
Yeah, but for me it's Caius, and I don't know, this picture or this photograph simply perfectly sums up the entire desert rock scene. It's the best desert rock album out there. It's the best, in my opinion, the best stoner metal album out there, and this is the perfect album cover for this awesome album. The colors are kind of soft. The music is a bit dreamy and hazy and so on. For me it's the whole package, and that's why I simply love this album cover.
Alright, Hannah, let's start with you for number 7.
Well, I've got a tie on my number 7. 2 awesome albums with amazing album artwork. The first one is Soul Saphir Otta. I mean, whenever you listen to Soul Saphir, you immediately know or that they are from Iceland. Of course, they're singing in Icelandic, but also the music. It's kind of fitting of this very harsh environment, and then but still it's still beautiful in a way. And on this amazing album cover, you have this kind of old man with the beard. You immediately think about Odin on this dark beach with this massive cliffs in the background and the rough sea at one side, and it's kind of framed by those 2 black stripes at the top and the bottom. I'm a sucker for this kind of imagery, and I love this kind of imagery. The man just looking in the distance, and it perfectly fits this amazing album. I've been trying to get this photograph on the poster or on the flag for years. I couldn't find it. Would like to put it somewhere on my wall. I think it's simply beautiful. And the same goes for the next one on my number 7. It's Alceste, a.k.a. de Lumiere. Nash's music is dreamy. This album cover is dreamy with the mermaid putting her hair above this kind of sleeping man, and then you have the half moon on top in this kind of it's this underwater environment with little jellyfish swimming around and a crocodile or something like that. And I simply love the coloring of this one. It's nice and blue, but still cozy in a way. Usually, I think blue is cold, but on this album cover, it's not, or certainly doesn't feel like that. It's just so fitting, the music and this album cover, and Alcest have always had a great paintings on their album covers done by Percy Tessier, and this one is, in my opinion, the best one.
Artur.
My number 7 might be a bit my left field of it, but I like this band, and I like the cover art as well. From Switzerland, Elevatis Slania. I mean, the imagery of the Alps in a sort of a grayish type cover, with a little girl holding up a little Celtic girl holding up a sword. Girl or a boy, you can make your own judgment, especially with the long hair. But holding up the sword, getting ready to go to either to war or to protect their homeland. It's so beautiful. I mean, especially with the peaks of the Alps behind the girl, and the way that they fade it, or they put some shading into it to make it more, especially appearing with the Celtic symbols appearing as well. They made a tour version where the girl was falling down, still holding the sword, and they also made the 10-year version of the album where the girl and the boy was all grown up, was still holding the sword, but still the imagery was the same. The mountainside. Slania is my number 7.
Ricky?
Well, you spoiled my number 7. Slayer's Rain in Blood.
Oh.
I mean, that portrait, it reminds me of kind of a 15th century paintings. I don't know why I get that vibe, but just the artwork alone has demons. And it kind of makes me feel that's what happens the minute you open the gates of hell. You all just see that. Down the river Styx, and just seeing torture and suffering. And I think the artist was named Larry Carroll. I think that was his name, Larry Carroll. In an interview, he said that in every Slayer album he created, which was South of Heaven and Season of the Abyss, there is a penis photo, a penis portrait up there. That he said that the penis in Rain in Blood is next to the demon. I think he's holding the door. That's what he said. I think it was there holding a penis. I'm not sure. I think it was either there or just beside the right-hand corner up. I think that's where it was. Oh yeah, but that Slayer album cover, even Rick Rubin and the band, when they saw the album cover, were like, holy shit, this is fucking scary. They actually thought it was scary, and I'm like, you guys had 2 album covers, Show No Mercy and
Hell Awaits,
that were, in my opinion, a bit better, but in terms of iconics, Rain in Blood gets the vote.
Yeah. Time to get some killing going on Ricky.
Oh boy.
I have a feeling you might have this at your number 1. One of the most iconic covers of all time. It is Highway to Hell, AC/DC.
No.
Damn it!
Oh shit!
Nope.
Damn it! I thought I was gonna get you for sure.
I'll give you a hint. It is one of the most iconic album covers of all time, in my opinion. But you were close. It is around that 70s era. I'll tell you that.
I got a feeling I know which one it is.
But anyway, so yeah, I went with Highway to Hell because, yeah, it's a very simplistic one, but just that image of the band together and then Angus with the horns and the devil's tail. Awesome. Plus the final thing we got with Bon Scott, so it's gotta be on here too. And it fit, especially the title track. exquisitely perfect. So, yeah, that's my number 7, Highway to Hell. Number 6, probably in my personal opinion, the greatest album cover in death metal history. Well, second best in death metal history. And it's Scream Bloody Gore. I love this image of like all the skeletons and the head zombie in like some catacombs drinking out of wine cups, gullets, or whatever they're called. But yeah, and it just fit the music again to a T, from the beginning, the tie from the track Infernal Death through to the bonus track Land of No Return. And it's just such a cool image. I mean, Death is always... I don't think there's a bad Death album cover. I think all their album covers have something cool to it. Like Leprosy is iconic. Spiritual Healing's cool. Human's a cool one.
Sound of Perseverance.
Sound of Perseverance, Symbolic, Individual Thought Patterns. Really, any Death cover could have fit, but I went with the first because I thought this one was the coolest looking one and the scariest looking one, too. But only the second best death metal album cover. The best one still yet to come.
Okay.
Artur.
My number 6, I'm going again to the folk metal side, but I don't care. This album cover is just too good and too beautiful to leave it out. Ed Sephirum's One Man Army. I mean, it does also look like a painting. I mean, a Celtic warrior or a warrior from ancient times with a wolf skin on top of it. The blue skies, even the burning woods as well, with the blue skies as well, with Odin or I think it's Tyr, the Norse god of war, watching over the warrior. Where, although here on the back, the band is also not bad represented, as you can see here. But as I said, beautiful for incorporating just about everything. The burning woods. The burning woods and the burnt as well. The two warriors, because there's another one here on the back, and the fact that the god of war, as much like Odin, blesses this battle. Number 6, the One Man Army by Ed Sephirum.
Ricky.
My number 6 is the only Death Doom album I have on my list. It is no surprise which one it is. Swallow the Sun. When a shadow falls into the light. I could have gone with rooms. I could have gone with Songs for the North. I could have gone with the JBU album. Could have gone with even My Dying Bride. Even the new My Dying Bride album, great artwork. But I went with the album cover that I talked about an entire year, still to this day. I mean, for some people, this could be a simple artwork. To me, it's much more. I mean, you got what looks like somebody dressed up in a ritualistic, almost like a pagan artwork with the sword and kind of like a deer's head, skull head, and you have the river covered in black and gold in the night with the stars in the background. Brings a very dynamic to the album, and it ties up the music very well. I mean, I've said it once, I'll say it again. Swallow Sun, probably my favorite Death Doom band of all time, and Shout Out to Life, my favorite album of theirs.
Alright, Hannah.
My number 6 is Autopsy, the alternative cover of Survival. I'm not a big death metal fan, and not. But what I really like about this kind of music is the album cover art, or the album cover artworks, and in this case the autopsy conducted by this kind of alien surgeons, really scary looking dudes. I mean, it gets your imagination going for sure, and it's kind of fitting to this kind of brutal and very macabre sort of music. In my opinion, it's way better than the original album cover artwork. they should have gone with this from the beginning. I simply love this kind of perspective that you see this kind of alien surges. It's such a gory thing to do. If I had to choose a second death metal album, it would probably be Leprosy by Death. Again, this kind of scary-looking guy, obviously suffering from leprosy, and this kind of contrasting pink background. It's just such a striking selection of colors. The same goes for the Autopsy album cover. It's so brutal yet so colorful in a way, and that's what's really striking for me.
Honorable mention, speaking of Autopsy, Mental Funeral, the album cover for their second album. So there you go. Alright, Hannah, we're going to start with you for our top 5.
Well, my number 5 is Mirror Reaper by Bell Witch. Spoiled already, but I could have chosen a lot of album covers done by Mariusz Lewandowski. I love his work. He did it for Falls, and this kind of on the Bell Witch album, this kind of Reaper leaning down towards this big mirror, and the epic landscape you have on the other side. It certainly gets your imagination going. It's this kind of epic landscape he creates, and the same goes for the soundscape created on this album. It's slow yet epic, and it's just so fitting. And I think Mariusz Lewandowski is one of the most gifted artists creating metal album artwork. He's from Poland. Another honorable mention would be I have no idea how to pronounce his name. Zbigniew Bieliak, the guy who did all the Ghost album covers. Both are from Poland, and both are creating awesome works. But I prefer Mariusz Lewandowski, and in my opinion, his best work is Mirror Reaper by Bell Witch.
Alright, my number 5 was spoiled already. It's Master of Puppets. No shock. The iconic image of the puppet master with the strings all over the crosses in the cemetery. And especially when listening to the title track, looking at this cover, it's like you're drawn into it even further. So, my number 5, Master of Puppets. And actually, I'm going to make a last minute change. I'm going to have a tie at number 5. I got to pull up the cover real quick, because I just thought about this one, and I'm thinking, how could I forget this cover? Because this is what kind of started a revolution in extreme metal. And the album cover I'm referring to is Napalm Death Scum.
Ooh, yeah.
I completely forgot about Napalm Death, especially that first cover with the collage of different government leaders with all of the corporate logos and bunch of stuff. And that was a big thing that happened in the grindcore scene, where you would see bands do political collages. The next one that would be just as iconic would be Terrorizer World Downfall, because it was made in a similar vein with Jesus on the cross and like Hitler and a bunch of other things.
Reek of Putrefaction also has a similar art style to
the collage, yeah.
Scum.
Yeah, the collage idea. But yeah, I just thought about that one because I'm like, what was a big one I was missing? And Scum was the one. So, my number 5, tie, Master of Puppets, and Scum. Ricky.
You brought up Judas Priest's Painkiller. You were right about the band, but not the album.
I'm going to take a guess and say Screaming for Vengeance.
It's not Screaming for Vengeance. It's not British Steel. It's not Defenders of the Faith. It's Sad Wings of Destiny. Probably my favorite Priest album cover ever, because you have the image of an angel, which could be Lucifer, being cast out to hell, and has the flames in the background. And if you listen to the song Dream Deceiver, but look at this album cover, you feel the album cover, you get the album cover, because it's like I said, this is probably Jesus casting Lucifer out of heaven into hell, and you have the wings in the background. It's just one of the most beautiful Priest album artworks ever created. Probably my favorite Priest album artwork. It's not my favorite album, that goes to Defenders of the Faith, but in terms of imagery, Sad Rings of Destiny gets my vote.
And I brought up earlier the Trident logo, which is the necklace on the angel, made its debut.
Yeah.
All right, Artur.
Part of it has been spoiled by Levi, in a way. I'm going to just turn on the lights because it started to rain here. Not in the bedroom, thankfully, but Levi kind of spoiled it already, and there have been black metal cover arts that have become iconic and infamous at the same time. I mean, Hannah just...
Oh.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Did Artur just freeze?
Yeah, he's frozen like...
I froze over in Portugal, in Lisbon.
Technical difficulties.
Of course.
Hopefully,
Artur, have you returned?
Artur,
sorry, guys.
Artur.
It crashed. But I was saying, I have to go with a trilogy. Blaze in the Northern Sky, Under a Funeral Moon, Under a Funeral Moon, and Transylvanian Hunger. Yeah, it's basically the same thing. The guy with the corpse paint posing up for pictures. One can guess who it is. Either Nocturno, or Fenris, or Zephyrus, who was still with the band throughout these 3 albums.
2 of them, at least, yeah.
3. He still did Under a Funeral Moon. He was gone. It was gone on the 4th, which was I think Panzerfaust. He was already gone by Panzerfaust. But I mean, those covers are simply iconic. The corpse paint, the dark woods, or even the candles, trying to get that feeling that you're inside of a Dracula's castle in Transylvania. That's why, to me, I can put just one. I can put just one of the Dark Throne albums. I have to put all 3 because all 3 of them, just like the albums themselves, are as iconic.
Mm-hmm. Or Artur, your camera's not there.
But you still listened. But you
Yeah,
still
yeah.
heard.
Well,
Yeah.
we
we heard
can't
you.
see you.
Thankfully, I don't have the albums. But still,
There you are.
There you go.
You're
okay.
back.
But still, as I said, Blaze, Hunger, and Funeral Moon by Dark Throne.
Hannah.
Well, my number 4 is a bit convoluted because
4? We're still 5.
We're still in 5.
I did my number 5 already.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Oh,
Did everybody number 5?
Did you do number 5,
Yeah.
Ricky?
Yeah, I did my number 5.
Okay, so now we're on number 4.
Now I'm number 4.
Then
Alright.
I'm going. Then I guess it's me again because I have Germany now on my number 4, and I'll suggest a drinking game. Drink every time Hannah mentions Rammstein or The Mantle. Drink every time Levi mentions Dead Swallow or Edge of Sanity. Drink every time Ricky mentions AC/DC and Pink Floyd. I drink every time I mention Power Metal and Blind Guardian. My number 4, or Moonspell as well. My number 4, it's once again Ty. I'm wearing one of those album covers right now, somewhere far beyond, by Blind Guardian. I mean, the whole soothing scenery, which you can make that looks like something straight out of Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship, from the Fellowship of the Ring. everyone resting, preparing to continue on their journey. It's very much like, especially when you see the orcs or the goblins and the orcs here on the back. Could I have done this without Nightfall in Middle Earth, which also has an iconic cover as well, with Sauron being represented here as a lord? Sauron or Morgoth, maybe, but still. With the Dark Lord representing right here, a Dryad trying to convince him, and all the Dwarven realms here on the back. I can. And last but not least, another one that is a bit more of an Egyptian, which is also part of Blind Guardian as well, At the Edge of Time, where it has the wings and the pyramids symbolizing the whole time. So my number 4 is my Blind Guardian trilogy, so to say. Far Beyond, Nightfall in Middle Earth, and At the Edge of Time.
My number 4, I actually forgot. Death Screenplay Gore would be the third best death metal album cover for me. The second one, yeah, it's a simplistic one, but it's perfectly fitting of this band. And maybe the best cover this band ever did. Better than their early stuff. Carcass and its Surgical Steel. I love this cover for all the different surgical tools, because it fits what the album was trying to convey. Plus, it fits the band perfectly. The lyrics, the image, but without any gore. It's just basically, well, here's all the tools we're going to do to dissect your dead body in autopsy and whatnot. Like the saw, the scissors, the butcher's knife, the hammer.
Scalpels. The scalpels.
Yeah, scalpels, all the surgical tools that you need. And it's like, yeah, musically, it's more reminiscent of necroticism and hard work with the more mellow death vibe. But the lyrics and the cover goes back to their old days with Reek and Symphonies of Sickness. But no gore. Maybe when Torn Arteries comes out later this year, maybe the cover will be gory, considering it's called Torn Arteries. We'll see about it. But number 4, Surgical Steel by Carcass. Ricky.
My number 4 has been Spoiled by Hannah. Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon. As iconic as Dark Side of the Moon is, Hannah mentioned it, there's posters of it everywhere. You can buy the poster. It's one of the most iconic posters ever. I mean, you got the prism with next to the rainbow and the light going into the prism, which reminds me a bit of Sir Isaac Newton, when they discover the Roy G. Biv. Try to remember science here, you know, all that. It's a simple artwork, but yet so impactful, and effective to everybody. I mean, I even have a poster of the Dark Side of the Moon in my room. I have it on vinyl. I have it. What I don't have
it in my room.
You see, that's how much iconic this album artwork has been to every person who's a Pink Floyd fan. Universally, everyone can say maybe Dark Side of the Moon is the best album. I can say it is next to The Wall, in my opinion. And I could have gone with The Wall, but The Wall is a bit too bland. It's just the logo with the bricks in the back. But that's why I went with the Dark Side of the Moon.
Now time for my number 4. My number 4 is a bit convoluted because I choose several albums, all of which incorporate paintings. Artur already talked about Nightfall by Candlemass, originally painted by Thomas Cole. I think it's awesome, it's fitting, and I really like that they went with something historic for this one. That the same goes, I mean, a lot of bands did that. For example, Burzum have used paintings by Theodor Kittelsen on both Philosophem as well as his Lycetaros. And I mean, it exposed me to a lot of painters, and I really enjoy discovering this kind of landscape paintings or portraits and so on. I have did the same on the Divinity of Oceans. It's the book of the Raft of the Medusa, originally painted by Theodore Géricault, and again, it's totally fitting to this album. But I think the best time ever a band incorporated an old painting is right behind me on the wall. It's Bathory with Blood, Fire, Death.
I'm seeing the cover over there on the back. Yeah.
Ooh, the picture disc.
Yep. I mean, it's originally a painting by Peter Nikolai Arbo, called Asgard Ryan, or in English, The Wild Hunt of Odin. And it's so fitting. The imagery is so fitting together with the music. You have these Valkyries riding through the dark skies with Odin's ravens flying above them, and the fallen warriors in Asgard riding along with them. People dying underneath and getting kind of that's the thing if you're not an English native speaker, and kind of torn towards heaven, and then you have this barren landscape underneath them, this kind of deserted battlefield. It's simply so perfect. Perfectly underlines or accentuates the musical shift that occurred on this album. I mean, Bathory switched from switching black metal to incorporating these Viking and pagan elements on this album, and the album cover perfectly underlines this shift. And because of that, I discovered so many paintings of Norse mythology, of landscapes and so on. I mean, I had to put it on my wall because I simply love it so much, and I think it's one of the most iconic album covers out there.
All right, Hannah, let's start with you for number 3.
2. Oh no, 3. Sorry, I'm confused. Well, my number 3. I again have 2 album covers, and 2 album covers that, in my opinion, perfectly accentuate the music. The first one, I'm simply because I'm such a huge sucker for American black metal, is Wayfarer's World's Blood. Originally, it's a photograph by Edward S. Curtis, and if you know Edward S. Curtis, he throughout the end of the 19th century, he traveled throughout the entire area of America and photographed Native American tribes. I own his book with the collected works, and this is an edited photograph of his. It's basically this kind of Native American on a horse somewhere around the Colorado area, riding through the landscape, and it just simply perfectly sums up how this album feels like. And I've always been interested in Native American culture and Native American music, and how it's incorporated into metal. And this album cover simply, it could have been selected better. And the same goes for the next one. Sadly, I don't have the original vinyl. It's Panopticon's Kentucky. I talk about it every episode. And the thing is, on the original vinyl, the first pressing, the cover is much greener, and it's so striking. I mean, this album talks about Kentucky and coal mining in Kentucky, and when I think about Kentucky, I think about a green state, rivers running through the mountains, and very rural areas, and in the front you have this kind of landscape, this very rural Kentucky landscape, and then in the back you have this picture of this old coal miner sitting on the ground together with his son, and you couldn't have selected a better album artwork. And the color is so striking. I mean, usually album covers aren't green, vivid green, but this one is, and that's what caught my eye the first time I ever searched for this kind of music, and I think it's perfect. Both album covers are perfect. Love it or hate it, I love it. And I'm rambling, and I'm shutting up now.
Well, my number 3, now let's get to, in my mind, the best album cover in death metal history. And there's one artist who's done covers that we haven't talked about yet, and that's the one and only Dan Seagrave, who has done numerous covers for a multitude of different bands, from Morbid Angel to Suffocation to Rivers of Nile to so many other bands. But the most iconic, I feel, that he's ever done fits arguably the greatest album in the history of Swedish death metal, Entombed, Left Hand Path.
Ooh.
I mean,
honorable mention.
Just this image of like a tombstone and like near what looks like a dark forest river with what looks like fire coming out, like lava coming out of the tombstone leading into the river in this dark forest. It's so atmospheric, it fits the album perfectly, and like the album itself, Left Hand Path, one of the most atmospheric death metal albums of all time that has a bit of that thrash, punky vibe with a little bit of a precursor to the melodic death metal scene that would spawn a year or two after. And the album cover reflects the music, especially the title track when it closes with the mellotron in the background. It's just scary and haunting, and the album cover fits everything about one of the most iconic albums in death metal history. Mwah! Exquisitely. So that's my number 3, Entombed, Left Hand Path, in my opinion, the greatest album cover in the history of death metal. Artur.
I'm going 3 of a kind. Painkiller, that someone here, Levi, already mentioned. I mean, the Painkiller bike with a metallic angel here on it, riding out of hell. I mean, it's Painkiller. Probably one of the greatest metal albums and metal comeback albums of all time. But I could have easily put here Sad Weeks of Destiny, and I love that cover. But I'm going Metallian. I'm going Defenders of the Faith. I mean, the lion, the metallic lion over here, especially with the twin machine here as well. The album might be a bit inconsistent, but still Metallian is of Defenders of the Faith, and the art, it's and should I say Helion as well? I mean, screaming for vengeance. For many, it is a bit of a basic cover, especially with the targets, kind of a rising sun. But what makes this album unique is especially the Helion. I mean, the Metal Eagle as well, the Helion. And when you start off the song,
the fact that it's yellow.
Huh?
And the fact that it's a yellow cover.
Yeah. which can be weird for many, but still. Hellion, Metallian, and Painkiller, all part of my number 3. The Judas Priest 3 of a kind, Screaming for Vengeance, Defenders, and Painkiller.
Ricky.
My number 3, Artur Swollet, Master of Puppets by Metallica. Levi said it. The puppeteer holding the strings into the graves. And you have the crops right there. It's just one of the most out there artworks that as a young metalhead, as a kid, I would stare and like, what is going on here? And it could be a simple artwork, but with Metallica, it's not always simple. It has something more behind it. And when you listen to the album, you understand it. So yeah, my number 3, Master of Puppets.
All right, Ricky, let's start with you for the top 2. Number 2.
Well, it's Iron Maiden time.
Oh,
And
oh no.
and when we decided to do this list, there was no chance in hell Iron Maiden was gonna be out of it. I could have gone with the debut. I could have gone with the Book of Souls. Hell, I could have gone with Peace of Mind. But I went with the one album that made me a Maiden fan. The Number of the Beast. For me, when you talk about Iron Maiden album covers, this one's the one that always pops up. I recently bought the Funko Pop of The Number of the Beast, and I should have brought it, but it's when you look at it for a 3D side for the Funko Pop, it's so weird out there. I mean, the album cover. I mean, you don't know who's controlling who. Is the Beast? Is the devil controlling Eddie, or is Eddie controlling the Beast? And also, it's Eddie. I mean, Eddie can be anything. Eddie could be a freaking alien. Could be a freaking, I don't know, a dismembered body. Could be anything. Eddie is Eddie. Eddie can be, like I said, anything you want in this world. There's no, no something set in stone that Eddie should be this, Eddie should be that. Eddie is anything you want it to be. And plus, I like the little details of you have the little devil having kind of controlling a little person right there, and then you have the flames with the little devils and all that while Eddie's doing his thing. And I don't know why I like the blue version of the album, the misprint, which I think it's a bit better. It makes the album a bit pop up a little bit more. The blue and black cup sky instead of the original one. So yeah, Number of the Beast, Iron Maiden, one of the most iconic album covers in metal.
I'll raise you up 3 in a moment.
All right, Artur, you're number 2.
Thank you, Hannah, once again for spoiling my number 2. One of them is already behind you. Nightside Eclipse. I mean, as Levi also mentioned as well, something that you... Now I think of it, this looks like Minas Morgul. But I'm a Lord of the Rings geek, so whatever. But still, one of the best black metal album covers that has ever been produced. Although there are some versions of this album where this is green, but I think that was an error in copy and such. But Emperor Nightside Eclipse is definitely one of the best covers of all time. And as a tie for my number 2, Hannah knows that I can't do this without it. Anthems to the Welkin at Dusk. I mean, it's a darker imagery with a bit more of a greenish type of environment as well. Now showing a little bit more of the roots of the earth and the forest itself. But I mean, these two are iconic, not just for their songs, which are as well, like Inoa Satana and many others, but for their artwork as well. And if you talk about black metal, for the good or for the bad, despite what Emperor might have created afterwards, Dimmu Borgir, Cradle, and the Seattle scene, you cannot talk about black metal without talking about iconic covers such as Nightside Eclipse and Anthems to the Welkin at Dusk.
My number 2 is, well, you have to see it to believe it. Merciful Fate, Don't Break the Oath.
Oh, snap! Snap! That's a great choice.
I mean, simplistic Yes, but it's powerful, fits the music, and even the inside cover of King Diamond entering a tomb and what looks like he's walking into hell, combined with this,
it makes me think in or coming out of hell.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a powerful image. I could have went with In the Shadows. I could have went with Melissa. But this is the more iconic one in my mind. Simplistic, but it's so colorful and awesome to look at. The devil coming out of the flames, like you. It's just awesome. My number 2, Merciful Fate, Don't Break the Oath. Hannah.
My number 2 is Black Sabbath by Black Sabbath. Been talked a lot about already. I simply love this album cover. It's so mysterious with this woman, with this cloaked woman standing in front of the iconic Maple Durham watermill in the fog at dusk or at dawn or whatever. And it's simply the colors, this kind of oranges and blacks that intermingle, just so mysterious. And after their album release party in America, where they were seen together with Anton LaVey, they of course got this kind of bad image as a satanic band, and this album cover certainly underlines why people would thought of putting them in this kind of satanic corner together with this kind of music, with this heavy music that hadn't been heard before. And the album cover simply underlines it perfectly, because at that time nothing had ever done like this. I mean, certainly, of course, you had kind of cultish album covers like what was it? Witchcraft Destroys Minds and Reaps Souls by Coven, but I think the first one to really embrace this kind of satanic imagery was Black Sabbath with Black Sabbath. Simply mysterious, occultish, and what I love about this album cover.
And now it's time for numero uno. Hannah, let's begin with you.
I'm honestly surprised that nobody has talked about this album cover, because it's iconic as fuck. It's everywhere. Whenever you go to a concert, you have people wearing it on their shirts. I have it on my battle vest. Sadly, I don't have the vinyl yet. Bathory.
Oh.
Honorable mention.
The goat.
I have the shirt, and I was thinking of.
I mean, Pink Floyd or AC/DC or Iron Maiden can be as iconic as they are, but when I think about iconic album cover artwork, I immediately think about Bathory. I mean, the goat, it's simple, especially on later pressings, vinyl pressing of this album, where it's black and white and not yellowish gold and black like on the first pressing. I mean, the imagery of this kind of goat in this kind of pentagram shape, for me, it's simply iconic. It's occult, it's satanic, yet simple, and certainly, I mean, your eyes are immediately on the album cover, and there's so much merchandise around with this imagery on it. It's everywhere, it's iconic, and in my opinion, when I think about the perfect combination between album, cover, and music, I think about this one, because the cover is satanic and occultish, the music is raw and occultish as well, blasphemous, and I mean, you have the pentagram on the back of the vinyl with the song titles, and the iconic lettering,
and still to this day sparks the everlasting long debate of who was number one. Venoms with Black Metal, which also had the goat cover, or Bathory. everyone knows that Venom was first, but they're both iconic.
But I was thinking about actually selecting a Venom album, but I prefer Welcome to Hell.
Still has the goat.
Yeah, but I think Bathory just did it better. As with the music, I like Bathory way. I prefer Bathory over Venom at any given day. Same goes for the album cover. For me, the most iconic album artwork ever, Bathory.
Now it's Iron Maiden time.
Oh yeah,
Ricky, let's begin with you.
Well, my number one, and I am shocked none of you guys have mentioned it. Hannah mentioned about Bathory. This album artwork, I have it also in my battle vest. In my mind, the best album out of the late 70s, from the beautiful mind of Tom Scholz, Boston by Boston.
Wow.
Yeah.
Didn't see that one coming.
You need to understand this. As a young metalhead, 8-9-year-old Ricky, I would discover a lot of bands, and every time this album cover would come up, I always was fascinated because you got flying saucers in the shape of a guitar, and you have here them destroying what looks like a planet. It could be Earth. And just them going through the air and just outer space is probably my favorite album cover of all time. Like Hannah said, you see a lot of Bathory patches in many shows. I see a lot of Boston patches in a lot of shows. This right here is probably one of the most iconic classic rock albums covers ever, next to maybe Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction, and The Number of the Beast. And I just love the little details, especially here in the main saucer. You have like a little CD right here to the saucer. Even the O's, you have the little alien shape. Just everything about this album cover just fascinates me. And yeah, it's my number one, Boston by Boston. Quite shocking,
All right.
huh?
Alright, now it's Iron Maiden time. Artur.
Number of the Beast is definitely not on my list. But and I had to poach these from my dad.
Slave.
But what have you huh?
Power Slave.
What?
Power Slave.
Ah!
This beauty. But I have three. All made by the great Derek Riggs, who has been Iron Maiden's art designer for decades. Not on the latest albums, but on the more iconic ones, he had his touch. Power Slave, I mean, I cannot say anything else about Power Slave. I mean, the Egyptian Valley of the Kings setting, the interior of the pyramids as well, it is simply iconic. The reason why I don't have Number of the Beast here, it's because there are at least two more album covers that are better to me than the hymn. Somewhere in Time. I mean, futuristic, cyberpunk, Blade Runner meets Iron Maiden, a full-on cybernetic headhunter. What more can you say? And especially here with the dystopian future. Yeah, West Ham winning 7-3 in your dreams. And with the band members still right here. Another Derek Riggs masterpiece. Last but not least, the futuristic themes of Brave New World. I mean, the whole Brave New World setting, a futuristic type London, Eddie smiling in the sky saying, How am I going to screw you over, COVID? And still becomes an iconic masterpiece. The Derek Riggs, the trilogy, so to say, Power Slave, Somewhere in Time, Brave New World. Although, if I had to put 5 Number of the Beast would be number 5, with either Peace of Mind or Killers as number 4.
Alright. Well, Hannah killed me earlier with this one. My number 1...
He killed me as well.
...is Killers.
What?
I mean, the image of Eddie with the bloody axe, dead in the night, out in the streets, it just looks great. I mean, this was... Whenever I think of Iron Maiden covers, this is the one I think of the most. And yet, last album with Paul Di'Anno, but still, the cover, it's classic. Big change up from the first album where you get the punky, spiky hair. Oops, sorry, Steve Harris. And luckily, they redeemed it. Now Eddie has long metal hair, so there you go. But, I mean, just the image of the bloody axe. And for me, I feel this was a good precursor to what you would see with death metal album covers with, like, murderous imagery. This was the beginnings of that with the bloody axe. So, my number 1, Killers by Iron Maiden.
Then who was the one that said Power Slave? That killed me. Hannah? Of course. Germany to the attack.
And you know, Hannah, just for punishment, Hannah.
I think I'm going to pack a parcel for you containing Diabolos in Musica.
Yes! and Kyle Busch.
Well, hey, NASCAR is coming back this Sunday, and I hope to God he doesn't win. But anyways, enough gawk. That does it for episode 34. Top 10 album covers. Good lord, this episode probably is going to take a while to edit, but it'll be worth it in the end. Thank you guys who were watching the premiere stream or in the archives. Next episode, the first ever album discussion. We are going to be talking about a.k.a. the Mantle. But I have got to listen to it more to really get a say-so in it, so I'm going to be spending the next couple of weeks trying to listen to more of that album, so yeah.
I'm screwed.
But yeah, that's episode 35. Wait till we get what?
What?
Until we get to the Nameless Dead.
That'll be 10 episodes from now. But yeah, this was a fun one, and just for fun, Artur and Ricky, group hugs, Hannah, mwah, a lovely kiss. So there you go. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in a couple of weeks for a.k.a. the Mantle. Horns high. See you soon. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Hey, can you fix this for me, please? I sure can. Okay, let's see what we got to drink. Ah, fucking perfect. Some good old Powerade. Delicious. No, not really. You know what I like to have every morning? A nice sandwich with some Clover Valley creamy peanut butter. But you know what else I want to do with this? I want to dip my balls in it! Let's see what we got in here. Damn it, we don't even have Spam in here! Why?